Welcome back to CrimePod Castle's Twisted Love series.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving deep into a case that gripped Gurugram, India, back in 2018.
Right.
It revolves around Shalini Gupta, a young woman found dead in her own apartment,
Oh, wow.
and the initial ambiguity surrounding her death.
Okay.
A tragic accident or something far more sinister.
It's a story that really captivated the nation.
Right.
And you can see why on the surface it seems like a straightforward case, even a tragic one.
Yeah.
But once you start peeling back the layers, right? The complexities of the relationship and the events leading up to Shalini's death.
Yeah.
You start to see a much darker picture emerge.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Sure.
We need to understand who Shalini was, what her life was like.
Right.
Before we even get into the details of the case itself,
Yeah.
can you paint a picture of Shalini for us?
So Shalini Gupta was a bright, ambitious young woman, just 28 years old. She had moved to Gurugram from her hometown,
Right.
determined to build a successful career in marketing.
Okay.
And she was doing incredibly well. She wasn't just going through the motions.
Right.
Shalini had this entrepreneurial spirit, a dream of launching her own business someday.
Yeah.
That really speaks to her drive and her forward-thinking nature, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes the circumstances of her death even more heartbreaking.
Right.
So she was driven.
Yes.
She had goals. She was making a life for herself in Gurugram.
Right.
Where does Rohit Kumar, her live-in partner, fit into all of this?
Well, to understand the complexities of this case, we need to understand live-in relationships in the Indian context. So in India, live-in relationships are becoming increasingly common, especially among young urban professionals. However, they still carry a certain societal stigma and lack the same legal protections as traditional marriages.
Interesting. So Shalini and Rohit were in this relatively new type of relationship in India with its own unique set of societal pressures and complexities.
Right.
Tell me more about Rohit.
Okay.
What was he like?
So Rohit Kumar,
Okay.
a freelance graphic designer in his early 30s,
Okay.
initially seemed like a quiet and supportive partner.
Good.
Friends described their early days as any typical couple.
Yeah.
They had moments of joy, shared dreams, and seemed genuinely happy.
Right.
But as time went on,
Yeah.
some cracks started to appear,
Okay.
particularly around Rohit's career insecurities. He was struggling to find consistent work,
Right.
and that started to weigh heavily on their relationship.
It sounds like these career struggles may have created a power imbalance in their relationship, especially if Shalini was thriving in her career.
Right.
Is that what started to shift the dynamics between them?
You're picking up on a crucial point here.
Yeah.
As Rohit's insecurities grew, his dependence on Shalini, both financially and emotionally, increased.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that's when we start to see the classic signs of a toxic relationship emerging.
Okay.
Rohit became possessive, suspicious, and controlling.
Wow.
He'd constantly check Shalini's phone,
Oh, geez.
accuse her of infidelity,
Yeah.
and try to isolate her from her friends and colleagues.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Or I guess I should say concerning. We see Shalini, this ambitious, independent woman, slowly being trapped in a relationship that seems to be turning toxic.
Right.
What was her response to Rohit's behavior?
Well, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because Shalini wasn't oblivious to the and flags. She confided in her friends, expressing her growing fear and her desire to end the relationship. She knew she was in a bad situation and was trying to find a way out. But breaking free from a controlling partner, especially one who uses emotional manipulation, is far more difficult than it seems.
You're right. It's never as simple as just walking away, is it?
No.
Especially when you're dealing with someone who's determined to maintain control.
Yeah.
What did Rohit do when Shalini tried to break things off?
Think about it. Here's Rohit already grappling with insecurity and a sense of inadequacy.
Right.
When Shalini tried to leave,
Yeah.
it completely shattered his world.
Wow.
He couldn't accept it. He became desperate resorting to pleas, threats of self-harm.
Oh, my gosh.
Anything to make Shalini stay.
Wow.
He even tried to guilt her, making her feel responsible for his well-being. It was a classic manipulation tactic, designed to trap her in a cycle of guilt and obligation.
So we have Shalini desperately trying to break free from a relationship that's becoming increasingly toxic, and Rohit resorting to manipulation and emotional blackmail to prevent her from leaving. This is definitely starting to sound less like a tragic accident and more like something much darker is brewing.
Exactly. And that's where the story takes a tragic turn. On November 3rd, 2018, a heated argument erupted in their apartment, with neighbors reporting loud voices and disturbing sounds of a struggle coming from inside.
Oh, wow.
It seemed like the tension that had been building for months finally reached a boiling point.
So the stage is set for a potential tragedy.
Yeah.
What happened next?
Well,
did anyone actually witness what happened inside that apartment that night?
Unfortunately, no one saw what transpired between Shalini and Rohit that night. But the events of the following morning would forever change the course of their story and bring the whole case to light in a way that no one could have predicted. So the morning after that fight, Rohit Kumar made a frantic call to the police. His voice trembling. He claimed that Shalini had accidentally fallen in the bathroom and wasn't responding.
Oh, jeez.
It seemed like a tragic accident, a terrible end to a heated argument. However, when the police arrived at their Gurugram apartment, they were met with a scene that immediately raised red flags.
So Rohit's claiming it was an accident. A fall in the bathroom. What didn't add up for the investigators? What did they find when they got to the apartment?
What they found was a scene far more chaotic and violent than what Rohit had described.
Wow.
Shalini's body wasn't in the bathroom as he'd claimed. She was lying in the living room. And her injuries told a very different story. Instead of minor bruises consistent with a fall, there were multiple wounds on her head and body.
Oh, my God.
Indicating blunt force trauma. There were signs of a struggle, blood stains scattered across the room, furniture overturned, and a palpable sense of violence that hung heavy in the air.
Wow. That's a far cry from a simple accident.
Yes.
It sounds like the police were right to be suspicious of Rohit's story. What happened next?
So,
did they confront him with these inconsistencies?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The discrepancies between Rohit's account and the actual crime scene were too glaring to ignore. It was clear they were dealing with something far more sinister than a tragic accident. The police immediately shifted their focus, treating Rohit as a prime suspect in Shalini's murder.
Okay.
They began meticulously combing through the evidence, determined to uncover the truth behind the facade.
This is where those classic detective skills come in. It's like putting together a puzzle, right?
Right.
You have all these pieces. The crime scene, Rohit's initial story, Shalini's background, and the dynamics of their relationship. What were some of the key pieces of evidence that the police focused on?
The first piece that really stood out was the inconsistency between Rohit's claim of a fall and the forensic evidence, Shalini's injuries. The multiple blunt force trauma wounds simply didn't align with his story. It became clear that she had been violently attacked. Not just a victim of an unfortunate slip and fall.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, isn't it?
Yeah.
The physical evidence just didn't support Rohit's version of events.
Exactly.
What other clues did they uncover that started to paint a clearer picture of what might have happened that night?
Well, this is where technology plays a crucial role in modern investigations. The police delved into Shalini's digital footprint, meticulously examining her phone records and social media activity. And what they found was chilling. Shalini had been sending messages to her friends. Expressing her fear of Rohit's escalating anger and possessiveness. She detailed his controlling behavior, his accusation, his attempts to isolate her, and her desperate attempts to leave the relationship.
Those messages must have been incredibly powerful evidence.
Oh, yeah.
It's like hearing directly from Shalini, even in her absence.
Yes.
It gave voice to her fears and provided a timeline of the events leading up to her death, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. They provided a chilling glimpse into the emotional turmoil Shalini was experiencing and corroborated what her friends had been telling the police about the toxic nature of the relationship. These messages were like puzzle pieces,
Yeah.
slotting into place and revealing a disturbing pattern of abuse and control.
So we have the physical evidence contradicting Rohit's story.
Right.
And we have Shalini's own words.
Yes.
Sent in those desperate messages to her friends, revealing her fear and desire to escape the relationship. What other avenues did the police explore to build their case?
Well, remember that chaotic crime scene we talked about? The police brought in forensic experts to analyze the bloodstains, the position of Shalini's body, and any potential weapons. They meticulously documented every detail, treating the apartment like a giant puzzle box waiting to be unlocked. And what they found was crucial in dismantling Rohit's fabricated story.
Let's dive into the forensics.
Sure.
What did the experts find that pointed towards foul play? And away from an accidental fall? What kind of details were they looking for?
The blood splatter analysis was particularly damning. It revealed a pattern consistent with multiple blows from a blunt object. Suggesting a sustained and violent attack. Remember, this wasn't just one blow in a moment of passion. It was a brutal and deliberate assault.
And what about the murder weapon? Did they find anything at the scene that could have been used to inflict those injuries on Shalini?
Right near Shalini's body, investigators found a heavy kitchen utensil. It fit the pattern of injuries and had traces of blood on it. Suggesting it had been used in the attack. The presence of this potential weapon, coupled with the blood splatter analysis, painted a gruesome picture of what might have happened that night. A picture that stood in stark contrast to Rohit's claims of a simple accident.
It sounds like the evidence is really stacking up against Rohit at this point. We have the inconsistencies in his story, the digital footprint of Shalini's fear, the forensic evidence pointing toward a violent struggle. What was his response to all of this? Did he maintain his innocence? Or did the weight of the evidence finally break him down?
Faced with mounting evidence and relentless questioning, Rohit Kumar finally cracked. He confessed to attacking Shalini in a fit of rage after she told him she wanted to leave.
So he admitted to the attack. What was his defense?
Well,
did he express any remorse? Did he try to justify his actions?
He did.
What happened next?
While he confessed to the attack, Rohit maintained that he hadn't intended to kill Shalini. He claimed it was a crime of passion. A momentary loss of control driven by the overwhelming grief and despair of losing the woman he loved. But would the jury believe him?
That's the question.
Was this a genuine act of passion or something more sinister? A calculated act of violence fueled by possessiveness and rage.
Those are the questions that will ultimately determine Rohit's fate. And it sounds like we're about to enter the courtroom drama. The trial that captured the nation's attention. But before we get into that, I want to take a moment to reflect on Shalini's story. It's easy to get caught up in the details of the investigation. But it's important to remember that at the heart of this case is a young woman whose life was tragically cut short.
You're absolutely right. Shalini Gupta was more than just a victim in a murder case. She was the daughter, a friend, a colleague, a woman with dreams and aspirations. Her story is a stark reminder of the devastating impact of domestic violence and the importance of recognizing the signs of toxic relationships.
And it's a reminder that we need to do more to support those who are trapped in abusive situations. Shalini tried to reach out for help. She confided in her friends. She tried to leave, but it wasn't enough. Her story is a call to action for all of us to be more aware, more empathetic, and more proactive in helping those who may be suffering in silence.
Well said. So as we prepare to enter the courtroom, and witness the legal battle that unfolded, let's keep Shalini's story in our hearts.
Absolutely.
Let's remember her as a vibrant young woman whose life was tragically cut short, and let's honor her memory by continuing to fight for justice and raise awareness about the devastating impact of domestic violence. The trial for the murder of Shalini Gupta began in mid-2019. And it was a trial that captivated the nation. The courtroom was packed. The media was buzzing. and everyone was eager to see how the case would unfold.
Yeah.
It became a public forum, not just for determining Rohit Kumar's guilt or innocence, but also for examining the complexities of love, betrayal, and the often hidden dangers of toxic relationships.
You mentioned earlier that live-in relationships in India were still somewhat taboo at the time.
Right.
Did that societal context play a role in how this case was perceived and how it was ultimately prosecuted?
It definitely did. You see, at the time, there was a growing movement in India to recognize and address domestic violence, especially within live-in relationships. These relationships were becoming increasingly common, yet they often lacked the same legal protections as traditional marriages.
Interesting.
Shalini's case, in a way, became symbolic of this larger struggle for women's rights and safety in a society that was still grappling with these evolving social norms.
So against that backdrop, with all eyes on the courtroom and the nation watching, how did the prosecution present their case?
Okay.
What was their strategy for proving that Rohit was guilty of murder?
The prosecution team was meticulous and strategic.
Okay.
They presented a powerful narrative, emphasizing premeditation, and portraying Rohit as a controlling and abusive partner who had ultimately taken Shalini's life in a calculated act of rage.
Wow.
They weren't just presenting facts, they were telling a story.
Yeah.
A story that aimed to resonate with the jury and dismantle Rohit's claims of a crime of passion.
And what about those chilling text messages that Shalini had sent to her friends?
Right.
How did the prosecution utilize those as evidence? Did they have a significant impact on the case?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Those messages became a crucial piece of the prosecution's case. They allowed Shalini's voice to be heard, even in her absence.
Yeah.
The prosecution read those messages aloud.
Wow.
Allowing the jury to hear Shalini's own words, expressing her fear, her desire to leave the relationship, and her growing concern about Rohit's escalating behavior. It was a powerful and emotional moment in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Humanizing Shalini and providing a stark contrast to the defense's portrayal of Rohit as a grief-stricken lover.
So the prosecution is painting this picture of Rohit as a controlling and abusive partner, using Shalini's own words to support their claims.
Right.
How did the defense counter that? What was their strategy for defending Rohit?
The defense team faced an uphill battle, but they were determined to present Rohit in a more sympathetic light. They focused on his emotional state, portraying him as a man deeply in love with Shalini, a man driven to despair by her decision to leave him.
Yeah.
They emphasized his financial struggles, his career insecurities, and his emotional dependence on Shalini, arguing that his actions, while undeniably tragic, stemmed from a place of overwhelming grief and desperation, not malice.
It sounds like a classic defense strategy, appealing to the jury's emotions, trying to elicit sympathy for the defendant. Did they try to downplay the violence of the attack itself?
They did.
Okay.
Did they try to offer any alternative explanation for Shalini's injuries? They argued that the attack was a spontaneous outburst, fueled by a momentary loss of control. Not a premeditated act of violence. They tried to paint a picture of a man who loved Shalini deeply, but was driven to a desperate act in the heat of the moment, blinded by grief and despair. However, the prosecution countered this narrative by pointing to the brutality of the attack, the forensic evidence, and the pattern of controlling behavior that Rohit had exhibited throughout their relationship.
But it sounds like a classic legal battle.
Yeah.
With both sides presenting compelling arguments and interpretations of the evidence. Ultimately, it was up to the jury to decide whose story they believed. What was the verdict in the case? How did it all end?
After weeks of testimony, deliberation, and intense media scrutiny, the jury reached a verdict. They found Rohit Kumar guilty of murder.
Wow.
The courtroom erupted in gasps and murmurs as the judge sentenced Rohit to life in prison.
Wow, a life sentence.
Yeah.
It sounds like the jury ultimately sided with the prosecution's narrative, rejecting Rohit's claims of a crime of passion. What was the public reaction to the verdict?
Well,
how did Shalini's family respond?
The verdict sent shockwaves through India for many. It was seen as a victory for victims of domestic violence.
Right.
A clear message that such crimes would not be tolerated,
Yeah.
regardless of relationship status.
Okay.
Shalini's family, while relieved that justice had been served, was understandably devastated by the loss of their daughter.
Of course.
They spoke about her infectious laughter, her bright spirit, and her unwavering determination, expressing the profound void that her absence had left in their lives.
It's a bittersweet victory, isn't it?
Yeah.
Justice is served, but it can't bring Shalini back.
Right.
Her case highlights the devastating consequences of unchecked rage and the importance of recognizing the warning signs of toxic relationships.
It's a tragic reminder that love should never come at the cost of one's safety and freedom.
Absolutely.
Shalini's story serves as a powerful reminder that we all have a role to play in preventing domestic violence, recognizing the red flags, and supporting those who are trapped in abusive situations.
Well said.
Thank you.
This case has been a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
Sadness for Shalini, anger at the injustice, and a sense of hope that maybe, just maybe, her story will spark change and prevent other tragedies like this from happening.
I hope so, too.
Yeah.
If anything positive can come from this tragedy, it's that it will raise awareness about the issue of domestic violence.
Right.
And encourage open conversations about healthy relationships.
Yeah.
Consent, and the importance of seeking help when needed.
Thank you for guiding us through this complex and emotional case.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been a truly eye-opening deep dive.
Remember,
yes,
if you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, there are resources available. You are not alone.
Yeah.
And there is help.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for another deep dive into CrimePod Castle's Twisted Love series. We'll be back next week with another captivating case.
Okay.
Exploring the dark side of love and relationships.
Right.
Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel for more thought-provoking content.
Yes.
Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay safe.